Um, I I went to work this morning where I work with people from all different backgrounds: black, white, African, Indian, Hispanic, etc. And to mind you, I didn't hear about the shooting in Charleston till this morning because I was working last night and then I went to sleep. But when I walked into work this morning, nobody, not one person, said to me, "I heard about the story in Charleston. I'm sorry." And it bothered me because we really want to pretend like it's not happening. And I don't think that my white friends, that my white coworkers realize that silence is consent. But I left work and I went to see my student. And I walked into this Indian woman's house, and the first words out of her mouth was, "Have you heard about all the foolishness going on in Charleston?" Of course I said, "Yeah, I have." So she goes, "Did you have family there? Are you okay?" And I felt like I had maybe not an ally, but at least someone who was willing to admit that it wasn't okay. So we're talking about it and what she thinks the cause of the problem is, what I think the cause of a problem is. And my student comes out from his room or from the kitchen and he sees that we're having a conversation. So as a good kid, he, moves to excuse himself. And she stops him. She says, "Come here. Do you know what we're talking about?" He says, "No." And she tells him, but she doesn't just tell him, She tells him the truth. She says, "A white man hates black people so much he walked into a church and killed 9 black people because he hated them." And she asked him, she said, "Do you think that's okay?" He said, "No." And she said, "What should we promote in this world, love or hate?" He says, "Love." She says, "Love for everybody?" He says, "Yes." And she said, Do you think that we're a part of the society that created this?" And he said, "No." And she said, "Of course we are." And he says, "But I didn't do it." She said, "No, part of it is the government, the governor's problem, but we vote for them." And he said, "I didn't vote for them." And she said, and she told him that it was his responsibility, our responsibility, whether we're black or not, to do something. And I boo-hooed at my student's house and excused myself to the bathroom because had the attacker at that church, had he been raised in her house, he wouldn't have done what he did. Not because she's Indian and he's white, but because she raises her children with a moral compass and teaches them to love people and not to judge people just by their skin color. See, we think he's sick and something's wrong with him, but at the end of the day, he's a product of his environment, just as every other 21-year-old is. If you're 21, you don't even really know what you stand on. You still stand on what your parents tell you to stand on. And your friends and the people you respect and look up to and the people he loves and respects and looks up to. Let me be careful with my words. He's a product of his environment. And I think to all of my non-black, non-target people, that if you really don't like it, if you're not going to say anything to me at work, if you're not going to say anything on social media or in a public setting, say something to your kids. Say something to your kids. I tell my students all the time that their musicianship is their responsibility, not mine, not their parents. I don't want to hear excuses from anyone about why they didn't practice, about why they aren't doing well, about why they can't play this song or that song, because at the end of the day, their musicianship is in their capable hands. And if there is a lesson to be learned there, it is that you, who you are as a person, no matter what your skin color is, who you are, who you become is your responsibility. It's your responsibility. You cannot look at all of the injustice that's happening and say nothing to your children and expect to put out good, loving citizens who don't walk into churches and shoot up black people, who don't respond violently to the things they don't like. It's your responsibility. It's not mine. It is not the school system's. I don't care how likable or unlikable I am. It's not my responsibility to teach your children to love me. It's your responsibility to teach your children how to function in the world. And to be honest, I hold you all accountable. I hold you accountable for the decisions you didn't make, for the decisions you don't make, to have the conversation with your kids the way my student's parent did. Because at the end of the day, it's your responsibility.